You are not James Bond. James Bond orders martinis and sleeps with beautiful women, and the worst thing that happens to him is a mild concussion and some light emotional unavailability. You drink black coffee from a paper cup at 6:47 in the morning in a Panera Bread off Route 7 in Tysons Corner, Virginia, and you are reading the Washington Post like a man who has nothing to hide. Because that is exactly what a man with nothing to hide looks like. And you have had 16 years to perfect the performance. You are the most dangerous person in this Panera Bread. You are possibly the most dangerous person in Fairfax County. No one looks up from their laptop. That's the job. You are from Chevy Chase, Maryland. Not the good part, the part where the zip code is aspirational, and the Ftesian drive Camrys and work for agencies that are technically contractors, but everyone at the dinner table pretends otherwise. Your father worked for one of those agencies. He never told you which one. You never asked. Because in Chevy Chase, in 1991, that is the kind of family you are. A family of careful omissions. You are 9 years old, the first time you understand that information is a currency. Your father comes home late. Your mother asks where he was. He says, Langley. She nods. She doesn't ask again. You watch this exchange from the top of the stairs and you think, he gave her just enough. Not the truth. Not a lie. The exact amount of information required to close the conversation. You file that away. You file everything away. This is not a skill you develop. It is a factory setting. His name is Richard Colton. Station Chief, Ankara, 2004. You are 26, fresh out of the farm, and you think the world is a chessboard, and you are learning to play chess. Colton is 54, and he thinks the world is a chessboard too, except he has been playing long enough to know that the pieces don't know their pieces. He gives you the rules over dinner at a restaurant in Ulus, whose name you will never repeat in a written document. Rule 1, he says, cutting his lamb. Everyone is an asset until they're a liability. The moment someone becomes a liability, they stop being a person and become a problem. Solve the problem. Rule 2, your loyalty is not to the agency. Your loyalty is to the mission. The agency is a building on the Potomac River. The mission is why the building exists. Rule 3, and this is the one you should have questioned, the one that should have made you put down your fork and say, actually, sir, I'd like to reconsider my career. Rule 3 is this: the truth is not a fixed address. The truth is wherever you need it to be to accomplish the objective. You nod. You eat your lamb. You are 26 and you think this is sophisticated. It is sophisticated. That's the problem. Istanbul, 2007. You are running an asset named Mehmet, mid-level procurement officer in the Turkish Defense Ministry. Access to NATO logistics documentation, nervous laugh, photographs of his daughters on his phone. You meet him every third Wednesday at a tea house in Karaköy. He gives you documents. You give him $4,200 per month, routed through a shell account in Malta. This is called a source maintenance budget. The line item exists in a spreadsheet somewhere in Langley. Someone approved it. No one thinks about Mehmet's daughters. Then a Russian intelligence officer named Volkov makes contact with you at a diplomatic reception in the Beyoğlu district. He is not subtle. He is not trying to be. He says in English very quietly, "We know about the tea house." Then he smiles and asks if you've tried the börek. You smile back. You tell him the börek is excellent. You do not report the contact to Langley. Not immediately. You wait 72 hours. You tell yourself you are assessing the situation. What you are actually doing, and you know this, at some level, in the way you know things you don't want to know, is considering the offer. You do not take the offer. Not in Istanbul. Not yet. Washington, 2011. You are now a GS-14 in the Counterintelligence Center, which is the structural equivalent of being the person who checks for moles while also being a mole. The irony is not lost on you. You have started to think of irony as a professional occupational hazard, like how radiologists get used to reading tumors. You see the shape of the thing, but you don't feel it anymore. Volkov reappears. He is no longer a field officer. He is SVR, Washington Residentura, running under diplomatic cover as a second secretary at the Russian embassy on Wisconsin Avenue. He jogs in Rock Creek Park on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. So do you. This is not a coincidence. Nothing in your life is a coincidence anymore. Coincidence is for civilians. The arrangement begins with information that feels harmless: organizational charts, personnel rotations, the kind of bureaucratic static that any intelligence agency generates in enormous quantities. You tell yourself, nothing that gets anyone killed. You tell yourself this for approximately 4 months. Then Volkov asks about a network in Belarus. 23 names. You know 16 of them. You give him 12. You tell yourself you protected 4 people. You spend the next decade not thinking about the other 12. Langley, 2014. You receive the Career Intelligence Medal in a ceremony that 11 people attend. Your section chief shakes your hand and says you have exceptional tradecraft. This is objectively true. You have exceptional tradecraft. You are, by any measurable internal standard, one of the best officers in the Counterintelligence Center. Your fitness reports are immaculate. Your polygraphs are clean, and this is the part that should terrify you, but has instead become a source of cold professional pride. You pass every polygraph. Not because you found a technique, not because you've beaten the machine, because you have been doing this long enough that when you sit in the chair and they ask, have you had unauthorized contact with a foreign intelligence service, you do not feel like you're lying. You feel like you're answering a question about someone else's life. The medal is a glass pentagon. You keep it on your desk. It faces the door. Here is what nobody tells you about being a double agent for the SVR inside the CIA's Counterintelligence Center. It is, structurally, a middle management job. Volkov has a handler above him in Moscow who reviews your product and assigns it a value rating on a scale of 1 to 5. You are usually a 4. Once you were a 5, that was the Belarus network, and once you were a 2, which caused a mildly tense meeting in Rock Creek Park, where Volkov told you that his clients felt the last quarter's deliverables were not operationally differentiated. You almost laughed. Operationally differentiated. You are committing treason, and someone in Moscow is filling out a performance review. On the CIA side, you have quarterly objectives, a section budget, and a direct report named Kevin, who is 31 and went to Georgetown and is very enthusiastic about signals intelligence. Kevin sends you calendar invites with titles like Sync CI Priorities. You attend these meetings. You take notes. You are the person in both organizations who most understands how both organizations work. This makes you extraordinarily useful to one and extraordinarily dangerous to the other. You have never been entirely sure which is which. Her name is Alina. She is 7 years old. She is the daughter of a Russian émigré named Dmitry Kasparov, not the chess player, just a man with the same last name who worked at a think tank in Georgetown and who you had been quietly building a file on for 11 months because Volkov thought he might be an SVR cutout, which he was not. He was just a man from Novosibirsk who wrote policy papers about energy infrastructure and coached his daughter's soccer team in Arlington on Saturdays. You are at a Saturday game. This is what surveillance looks like. In 2019, you are in khakis and a rain jacket, and you are standing 40 feet from a 7-year-old's soccer game, watching her father check his phone. Alina scores a goal. It is, objectively, a bad goal. The goalkeeper was not paying attention, and the ball sort of rolled in at low velocity, but Alina reacts like she has just won the World Cup. She screams. She runs to her father. He picks her up. He is laughing. She is laughing. They are both laughing at this objectively mediocre goal as if it is the best thing that has ever happened in the history of human athletic achievement. You close your surveillance log. You write in your report to Volkov, subject presents no intelligence value. Recommend closing the file. Volkov pushes back. You tell him the source is dry. Volkov accepts this. You have now spent 11 months of SVR resources building a file on a man who coaches youth soccer, and you have closed that file by lying to your Russian handler, which means you have committed an act of protection using the mechanisms of treason. You go home. You pour 2 inches of Maker's Mark. You do not think about what this means. You think about it for the next 6 years. It starts with Kevin. Kevin, who is now 37 and has become Despite your best efforts to find him professionally mediocre, a genuinely good counterintelligence analyst. Kevin, who has been running a thread quietly, methodically, in that way that young analysts do when they're too junior to be told to stop on anomalous pattern matching in the Belarus network compromise. Kevin, who has started asking questions about 2012 personnel rotations. Kevin sends you a calendar invite in March 2025. The title is Quick Sync Historical Anomaly Review. You accept the invite. You pour the last of your coffee. You look at the glass pentagon on your desk. You know what Kevin has found. You know because you would have found it too, if you were Kevin, because you trained Kevin, because you spent 4 years making Kevin the analyst he is, which means you have spent 4 years building the instrument of your own exposure. This is the kind of irony that doesn't feel like irony anymore. It feels like arithmetic. You have 72 hours, maybe 96. You know how these things move. You know who Kevin will go to, and when, and what the response protocol looks like because you helped write the response protocol in 2016. You are, in the final accounting, the world's leading expert on catching people exactly like you. Then, your phone rings. It is a number you don't recognize. You answer it. It is Mehmet, from the tea house in Karakoy. It is 2025, and Mehmet is calling you from a number in Baltimore. And he says, in English, he has clearly been practicing, "They are coming for you. I owe you this. You never told them about my daughters." You had, in fact, not told them about his daughters, not because you were protecting them, because they were irrelevant to the product. But Mehmet has spent 18 years believing it was mercy. You thank him, you hang up, you sit very still, you leave your badge on your desk at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in April, you leave the glass pentagon, you leave Kevin's calendar invite open on your screen, unaccepted. You take the orange line to Vienna, which is habit, pure muscle memory, and then you switch to a car you rented under a name you have been maintaining for 11 years for exactly this moment. You drive west on I-66, and the evening light is coming in flat and orange across the Shenandoah, and you are moving through Northern Virginia at 67 miles per hour while your entire professional existence dissolves in real time behind you. You have $340,000 in 3 accounts they don't know about. You have a passport that is better than real. It is a real passport issued by the State Department to a man who died in 2019, an administrative error that was never corrected, because no one cross-references that particular database with mortality records. And you know this because you are the person who would have corrected it. You cross into West Virginia. The radio plays something by Tom Petty. You don't turn it off. You think about Alina's goal. The bad goal. The goalkeeper looking the wrong way. Alina screaming like she'd won something. You think you are now the goalkeeper. You think you were always the goalkeeper. You stop at a rest area outside Martinsburg. It is 7:23 p.m. You sit in the car. In your jacket pocket is a USB drive that contains the full architecture of your arrangement with the SVR. Every meeting, every document, every name encrypted with a key that only you have. You have been carrying this drive for 3 years. You told yourself it was insurance. Now you understand what it actually is. It is a confession. You have been building your own prosecution for 3 years because some part of you, the 9-year-old at the top of the stairs, the part that watched his father give just enough information to close a conversation, knew that the only way this ends is that it ends. And you wanted, when it did, for there to be a record. Not for them, for you. Because the thing about becoming a man with no fixed truth is that after long enough, you stop knowing what you actually believe. You stop knowing which version of yourself is the performance and which is the person. And the confession, the drive in your pocket, the one document in 16 years you wrote only for yourself, is the only true thing you have made in a very long time. You could drive north. You could make a call. You could disappear into a legend you built a decade ago. Instead, you sit at a rest area outside Martinsburg, West Virginia, and you think about how the most sophisticated intelligence operation you ever ran, the one nobody caught, the one that lasted 16 years and compromised 4 networks, and cost the agency something it will spend the next decade calculating, was, in the end, against yourself. You open your hand. The drive sits in your palm. The highway noise moves around you like water. You don't become a double agent because you hate your country. You become one because, at some point, you stopped being sure what your country actually was, and nobody around you seemed to notice they weren't sure either. If you thought this was interesting, then comment. And if you enjoyed this, drop a follow. Anything helps. And enjoy the rest of your day, agents.